What's up? It's your boy Kazi, and welcome to Kazi Plays. Now I'm going to be showing you guys how to play Deadpool in today's guide. So without further ado, let's get into it. To start things off, let's first talk about his role. If you don't know already, Deadpool is the first character in Marvel Rivals to be playable on every single role. But keep in mind though that the playstyle is going to differ depending on which role you are. For example, you wouldn't play Tank Deadpool the same way you would play Deadpool on Strategist. However though, all the Deadpools do share one similarity, and that is they're able to either deal damage to enemies at a distance or they can play close up. So if you are a flex player, aka somebody who can play every single role, Deadpool won't be as hard for you to pick up compared to somebody who only plays one or two roles. Before we continue, to avoid any confusion with the Deadpools, I'm going to be giving each of them specific nicknames. So Tank Deadpool will be Tankpool, DPS Deadpool will be Dualpool or DPSpool, and then for the Strategist Deadpool, I'll either call him Stratpool or Healpool. Moving on, let's go over his abilities. First up on the list, we're gonna go over DPSpool, because once you understand how DPSpool works, it makes it a lot easier to understand the other two. His first ability opens up a book that is essentially a skill tree that allows you to upgrade every ability on here. And what I'm going to be doing is that every ability that I explain from now on, I will be explaining the upgraded version alongside it. Now, in order for you to get your level ups for your skill tree, there's this little meter at the bottom under your HP. You gotta build that up, and for every time you build it up, you can upgrade one ability. Now to do that, essentially you can do damage to enemies, but when they're knocked on the ground, you can take a picture of them, which will fill up your meter a lot faster. He also has a passive for when he's out of a fight for a certain amount of time, he just starts healing. His first primary weapon are two pistols that he has that do a decent amount of damage, but they also have zero fall off, which means you're going to be doing the same amount of damage from wherever you're at on the map. Now with the upgraded version, you do more damage, and on top of that you have more ammo, and you have a little poop emoji that when it fills up, it shoots out like a bomb. His next ability, he throws his icon out as a boomerang, and it comes back and deals some damage. Now with the upgraded version, what happens is that you're able to throw this boomerang out 3 times, and on the 3rd throw, it actually blows up. His next ability, it does damage to enemies in this little area over time, and while they're in it, it does cover up their screen. Now with the upgraded version of this ability, what happens is that while they're in the area for an extended period of time, it does cover up their health bar and their abilities too as well. His next ability is a hop that allows you to bounce on enemies or allies' heads, and as long as you get the timing down right, you can keep going forever. But if you do mess it up, you'll get a different animation and it will go on cooldown. His second primary weapon are these two swords that he have, and with the stabs they do a bit more damage than the regular attacks. Now with the upgraded version of the swords, what happens is that if you do a bounce, the next hit is guaranteed stabs. His next ability are these slashes, and for every slash that you do, you can do it up to 2 times as long as you hit your opponent. But if you whiff, then it goes on cooldown, and you have up to 2 of these slashes. Now with the upgraded version of your slashes, you actually get some airtime on it, and they do a bit more damage. His first ultimate, when you have the pistols out, you can target one enemy, and what happens is that they have to hit you, because every time they miss a shot on you, they will continue to take damage until they actually start shooting at you and hitting their shots. Now with the upgraded version of this ability, what happens is that they take continuous damage over time, and on top of that, they take more damage for every shot that they miss on you. His next ultimate is with his swords, and when you activate it, you have to hit enemies a certain amount of times with your skills. And when you do, you actually activate the second part of the ultimate, which gives you healing over time and a movement boost. But if you were paying attention at the bottom of the screen, it gives you a specific route to take, and if you follow that route, the buffs are increased greatly. Now with the upgraded version, what happens is that you also get a damage buff on top of the other buffs that you get, and if you follow the route, you do refresh all your cooldowns as well. Now, I don't know if you noticed already, but with Deadpool, its ultimate is different to build up compared to other characters in this game. With other characters, you build it up by percentages, but with Deadpool, he actually has letters, and when you reach S, that's when you can actually finally pop your ultimate. But it's also different because depending on how you combo enemies, you can build your ultimate way quicker than other characters in this game. Because as you can see, bam, I just did only a few hops and I just got my ultimate. Moving on, let's go over Stratpool. With Stratpool, his kit is essentially the same as DPSpool. The only difference though is that some of his abilities do heal. His pistols and his poop do heal allies, and he still does damage to enemies, but there is a bit of a damage nerf. His area of effect does heal now too as well. His boomerang heals allies and does damage to enemies. His hop heals allies as well. His swords can't heal allies directly, but if he's attacking enemies and allies are near him, they do get healed. Same with the slashes as well. With both ultimates, he just has a healing circle around him. However, the only difference though with his sword ultimate is that now this time you have to hit 7 abilities, where on his dual pool counterpart he only had to hit 5. And finally, let's go over Tankpool. His boomerang gets replaced with a unicorn bubble that tanks all damage, but don't worry, you can still do damage to it, but enemies cannot to you. And yes, this does tank ultimates like Iron Man ult or Scarlet ultimate. Now with the upgraded version of it, it isn't really much different, it's just a bigger bubble. Also with Tankpool, you only start out with 1 slash, you don't get the 2nd slash until you upgrade them. With both of Tankpool's ultimate, the difference this time is that you get bonus health. Deadpool also has a team up with Jeff where you can throw out a little unicorn that heals allies but also blinds enemies. Before we continue, if you have made it this far into the video and want to dive further into the community, I do got a Discord link in the description below. There we talk about Marvel Rivals, anime, manga and whatnot, so if you're interested, feel free to stop by, we'd love to have you. Up next, let's go over the best builds. What I mean by that is that depending on which role you're on, you're probably going to be getting certain upgrades earlier than others. So what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be telling you guys what I think is the best path on each role. Starting off with Tankpool, you want to get 5 first so you can get that damage reduction for your allies near you. Then go for number 4 so you can get that extra slash to make it a lot easier to get your sword ultimate off. Next, go for 2 so you can get that crit damage on your sword, which is going to be really helpful, especially when you're going against those shield tanks. Then go for 3 so you can have a bigger bubble, because having a bigger bubble is going to come in clutch and make it a lot easier to protect your teammates, especially from ultimates like Iron Man or Scarlet or even Doctor Strange. Next, go for 1 so you can get that extra damage with your pistols when you are playing a bit further back. Then go for 7. The sword ultimate is already good enough as it is, but since you pretty much got most of your upgrades out by now, you can just go ahead and do this. And finally 6, I have this as the lowest of priorities as Tankpool, because here's the thing, with this ultimate, the opponent has to whiff their shots, and with you being in the front lines most of the time, it's not going to be hard for them to do that. Moving on with DPSpool, you want to go ahead and get 3 first, because especially with how often enemies group up together, this will be a great way to build up damage on enemies and even pick off enemies that are low. Next, go for 2 so you can get that crit damage, and especially with dual pool being able to dive into the backline, you definitely want this extra damage to get those kills. Then you want to go ahead and get 4. Having that extra bounce on your slashes will make it harder for enemies to hit you when you are diving the backline. Next, you want to go ahead and get 5, because for the same reason as 4, with you covering up the enemy's screen, it does make it harder for them to hit you and make it easier for you to get kills. Next, you want to go ahead and get 1. With the extra damage on the pistols and having the poop bomb for the extra splash damage, this will help you in securing some kills. Then you want to go ahead and get 6, because I found this is really useful for when you're diving in the backline. What you can do is that pop this on one of the supports and then get out of their line of sight. And keep in mind that with supports, they have to shoot in order to heal their allies, which means they're going to be taking damage, and either 1, the other support is going to have to pocket them, or B, they're just gonna have to stop healing altogether, which is gonna cut their healing down and allow your teammates to push up. And finally, go ahead and get 7 with all the other abilities already upgraded that you need. With 7, having the extra damage boost is helpful, but it's not as game changing compared to the other upgrades. And finally, let's go over Stratpool. And first, you want to go ahead and get 3, because with 3, this enables you to heal your allies that are further away besides using the pistol, and also if a bunch of your allies are close around you, this does heal all of them together and does damage to enemies at the same time. Next, you want to go ahead and get 5. 1, it does heal allies that are close to you, but 2, this does help protect you against divers because it will completely cover your screen and make it hard for them to kill you. Then you want to go ahead and get 6, because this is really powerful, especially with obviously you have the AoE healing around you, but you do have a really good counter to some ultimates. For example, like let's say a Punisher does pop an ultimate, you pop this ultimate on him and then hide around the corner and it will immediately delete his health. Next, you want to go ahead and get 1. Sure, you have the increased damage and the increased ammo, but what's really important is the poop effect, because when you throw it down, it does the explosion, it does have a splash effect for healing. Then you want to go ahead and get 4, because with Stratpool, he's one of the first few characters where attacking the enemy does benefit his allies. So for example, let's say somebody's diving the back line. 4, it gives him the bounce to make it harder for enemies to hit him, but he does have that area of effect healing. So if your other support is right next to you while you're fighting the enemy that's diving in the back line, they will get healed while you are also taking out the dive. Next, you want to go ahead and get 2, so you can go ahead and get that extra bit of damage to make it a little easier to get rid of those dive characters. And finally, I have 7 at the bottom for Stratpool, because most of the time you are going to be in the back, you're not usually in the front lines. Now there might be that chance where you can push up and your team can push up with you, but keep in mind though that the AoE effects of the healing from this ultimate is not as big as you would think, so unless your team is staying close to you, chances are they're probably not going to get healed. And finally, let's go over his playstyle. To start off with Tankpool, usually you're going to be playing up in the front lines and trying to build that first upgrade as fast as you can. And once you do and you get your slashes, then you can switch over to a playstyle where you're trying to see if anybody is out of position, or what you can do is that you can go ahead and pop your taunt, go into the back line on the supports and see if you can try to pick them off. But even if you don't, the rest of the team is probably going to turn around to look at you, which will allow the rest of your team to like push up and apply pressure. And don't worry, as long as you are hitting your shots with the slashes, then you should still have one more slash for you to use to get out of there and get back to your team. If your team is running double DPS divers, you can play Tankpool a little closer to the supports because of how good he is at peeling for them, on top of already being able to blind enemies that are near him while he's using the taunt. He can also apply a damage reduction to his allies that are close to him as well. With how fast you can get Tankpool's ultimate, honestly, just go ahead and think of it as like another ability and just pop it whenever you can. Because if you do happen to force a support ultimate with it, it does make it easier for your team to win the fight, because either A, they can just back up and wait for the ultimate to go away, or B, they can counter with their own support ultimate. And remember, in this game, whoever has the last support ultimate out, chances are they're probably gonna win it. Moving on to DPSpool in neutral, you're mostly going to be playing poke with your pistols until you get your third upgrade, which is the slashes, because now once you get your slash upgrades, you can go ahead and start diving the back line. Because with the slash upgrades, remember, you are a lot more bouncy, which means it does make it hard for the enemies to hit you when you're going into the back line, and also you do have the taunt to blind them as well. With DPSpool, one of the best things about him is that he doesn't always have to go back to his supports for heals or even a health pack, because remember, all you gotta do is just stay out of the fight for a little bit and you just heal right back up. Like I mentioned earlier with DPSpool, one of the great things about using his pistol ultimate is that you can go ahead and pop it on the supports in the backline and then just hide. And with that being said, either you're gonna go ahead and force the other support to keep them alive by healing them, or 2, they just gotta stop healing altogether, which does cut the healing in half and make it easier for your team to push up. Your next best bet is to use it on one of the DPS, because they either have 2 options. Either 1, they have to go ahead and hunt you down, or 2, they just gotta stop fighting altogether, because there are some characters that have very fast fire rates on DPS, which means that it's gonna make it hard for the supports to out heal all that damage, especially on Punisher if he pops like his ultimate. Just like with Tankpool on DPSpool, with your sword ultimate, just use it as a way to try to force a support ultimate, but if not, then you can use that as a way for the enemies to take their eyes off the rest of your team. And finally, with Stratpool in neutral, you mostly want to be staying in the back and trying to get your first level up as quick as possible, because remember, with Stratpool, besides your pistols, you don't have any other way to heal your teams from far away, so getting the boomerang early on does make it a lot easier for you to keep them alive. Also, with Stratpool, remember, with his swords, he is able to heal his allies, not directly to them, but as a result of damaging enemies. So he is really good at keeping him and the other support alive if divers are going into the backline. Keep in mind, when you are ulting with Stratpool, that his healing output is not as high compared to other support ultimates, and this is mainly to balance out the fact with how fast he can get his ultimate in the first place. So in a sense, think of it as you just pop in just another ability to keep the team alive for a little bit on top of your other healing abilities. With Stratpool, his ultimate, you're not really going to be using it as a way to push up. Instead, you're going to be using it to counter ult some other ults. For example, if a Bucky or a Punisher or somebody is popping ult, so you can shut that ult down by popping yours and then trying to stay out of their line of sight, which makes them have to either stop fighting or they try to hunt you down. Also, I cannot stress this enough, no matter what Deadpool you're on, do not open your book in the middle of a fight, because what you're essentially doing is that you're taking out one player out of the fight and making it a 5v6, and it will really be a 5v6 if they do pick off one of your teammates during that time. So either wait until the fight is over, or if you really have to, go ahead and find some cover, then go ahead and open your book. Another thing to keep in mind is that with Deadpool, no matter which role you're on, when you do die, you do lose your ultimate, which does kind of make sense with how fast you do get your ultimate, but keep that in mind when you're deciding on if you're going to use your ultimate or not. And with the skill tree, when you are playing competitive and you're doing stuff like payload, when you do flip sides, you do lose all of your upgrades. But don't worry, on domination, you do keep your upgrades in between fights. And that's everything on how to play Deadpool. If I left something out or you did discover something new, feel free to put it in the comments below to share with everyone else to help each other out. But yeah, if you do want more Marvel Rivals on the channel, why do you know, go and support your boy. I'll go ahead and catch y'all in the next one. Y'all take it easy.